Peter. Peter was going out a little bit as well. But so they were very beloved at this time. They were converting all kinds of Gentiles to the faith. Hallelujah. 26. Men that have, and so he's talking about Barnabas and Paul. Let me read it together. Chosen men unto you with our beloved Barnabas and Paul, men that have hazarded their lives for the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. They put their lives at risk to give you the gospel message. Yeah, Paul was, stoned to death, it looks like, the one time, at least unconscious. And they were whipped and beat. Yeah, they hazarded their lives for the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Verse 27, we have sent therefore Judas and Silas, who shall also tell you the same things by mouth. So these two guys are going to tell you by their own mouth. They're going to be a living, breathing testimony to this letter that this is the truth. This is for sure what we want you to do, what we believe God is asking of you Gentiles. Okay, they wanted to make it very clear to the Gentiles. 29, that ye abstain from meats offered to idols and from blood. So the meats offered to idols. Interesting note. Paul says, if you buy this meat in the marketplace, it's okay to eat it. But it's not okay to eat it in the temple of the idol, because then you're trying to drink of the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons, because they're offering that meat to demons. He says you can't do that. Plus, you're gonna be stumbling a lot of people. Also, don't eat meat that's been offered to idols if somebody around you knows it's been offered to idols and they think it's polluted. They think it's wrong to eat it. Don't do it then either. He says, don't even bring up the question. That's what Paul says in one of his letters. If somebody asks you to come over, don't even bring up the question. But if they tell you that it's been offered to idols, he says, then don't eat it. Not for your own conscience sake, because you know that an idol is nothing and they can't really pollute the meat. But that person that's telling you that thinks it's wrong to eat meat that's offered to idols. So if you eat it with him, you're going to embolden him to go against his conscience. And he says anything not done in faith is sin. So you're going to actually cause your brother to go against his conscience, which means he's not going to be living by faith in God then. He thinks it's wrong. He's going to go eat it. He's going to be willfully sinning, and you're going to be destroying your brother. You're going to be causing him to be damned by encouraging him to go against his faith. What he really believes in his heart is right and wrong. You see how important it is to live by having a clear conscience, by living by faith? Because it's our faith that justifies us before God. And so if you don't live with a clear conscience, if you go against what you believe is right, you're going to be living in willful sin, and God cannot forgive you then, and you're going to be damned. That's what Paul says very clearly there. So another place to show you that your faith is why you are justified before God. He credits it to you as righteousness, your faith. He counts it to you. He gives it to you by grace. These are all the different words the Bible uses. It's all the same thing. All right. So this is what he tells them to do. That ye abstain from meats offered to idols. And that would mean in the idol's temple. Now, Paul elaborates on that later in his letters. But here, they just tell you to abstain from it altogether. So it looks like Paul kind of modifies this commandment later in his letter, saying, if you eat it in the marketplace, don't worry about it unless, like we talked about. All right. That you abstain from meats offered to idols, and from blood, and from things strangled, and from fornication, sexual immorality. That's a big one. From which ye have kept yourselves, from which, if ye keep yourselves, ye shall do well, fare you well. So that was it. A very short letter. That's it. 4 things it looks like. Abstain from meat offered to idols, from blood, and from things strangled, and from fornication. So just 4 things. From which, if ye keep yourselves, ye shall do well. All right, verse 30. So when they were dismissed, they came to Antioch. And when they had gathered the multitude together, they delivered the epistle. So this was considered an epistle, a very short epistle, but that was what they did to the church at Antioch when they gathered everybody together. Verse 31. Which when they had read, they rejoiced for the consolation. Oh, we don't have to be circumcised. That's great news. Yeah. You don't want to be circumcised when you're an adult. Can't imagine. Anyways, so, but they didn't have to keep the law of Moses either. So they were very happy. They rejoiced about that. Hold on one second here. Got our sister Lena trying to join. Okay. Verse 32. And Judas and Silas, being prophets also themselves, exhorted the brethren with many words and confirmed them. Confirmed the epistle and confirmed the Gentiles in the faith with many words of exhortation. So prophesying is not always telling the future. It's sometimes just exhorting the brethren with many words and confirming them, hey, you're really in the true faith. You're truly saved if you believe this stuff. If you do this, listen to this gospel. Welcome, Sister Lena. We are in chapters 15, verse 33. 15, verse 33. Acts 15, verse 33. And after they had tarried there a space, they were let go in peace from the brethren unto the apostles. So they went back to Jerusalem now, after they had stayed there for a little while. This is talking about Silas and Judas. I'm not sure if Silas did, though. Hold on. Okay. No, oh yeah, the very next verse. So it was only Judas that went back. All right, verse 34. Notwithstanding, it pleased Silas to abide there still. I think there were some other brothers that came with him as well. They only named Paul, Silas, and Judas, though, because those are the ones that were chief among the apostles, disciples in Jerusalem, and that's why they sent them to confirm that this is the apostles were really teaching, were really had agreed on. So, but Silas, he stayed there in Antioch still. He didn't go back. Okay, verse 35. Paul also and Barnabas continued in Antioch, teaching and preaching the word of the Lord with many others also. So many others there were preaching and teaching the word, I'm guessing is what it's saying. And Silas is still there. Okay, verse 36. And some days after, Paul said unto Barnabas, let us go again and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of the Lord, and see how they do. So now they're going to take a second missionary journey from Antioch, and they're going to go, well, they're going to go back to all the churches that they went through, Cyprus and central Turkey, the southern coast, central Turkey. And but what happens? Listen. And some days after Paul said unto Barnabas, let us go again and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of the Lord, and see how they do. And Barnabas determined to take with them John, whose surname was Mark. Now remember what happened on their first missionary journey? Mark went with them, but in Pamphylia, that's on the central southern coast of Turkey, he decided to leave. He didn't continue with them in the work. So, verse 38, but Paul thought not good to take him. He didn't want to take Mark this time with them because he departed from them from Pamphylia and went not with them to the work. So John Mark, he left halfway through the missionary journey, the first missionary journey. So Paul, he didn't want to take him now this second time, but Barnabas did. So they had a dispute, a contention between them. 39. And the contention was so sharp between them that they departed asunder one from the other. So Barnabas and Paul are now separating over that issue of taking Mark with them. And so Barnabas took Mark and he sailed unto Cyprus. So he is going on the same exact route that Paul and Barnabas went on their first missionary journey. So they're going to Cyprus first. So what does Paul do? He goes the way that they came back. He goes up into Turkey first. So they're both going, but they're going from the opposite ways. So Barnabas and Mark, or John Mark, are going the same route that Paul and Barnabas went, to Cyprus first. And Paul takes with him Silas. Okay, so now Paul and Silas are together, and they go the way that Paul and Barnabas came back the last time. So they're just retracing the steps. So I wonder if they meet. Huh? Maybe? I don't know. Anyways, they're going back the other way. Okay. And so Barnabas took Mark and sailed unto Cyprus, and Paul chose Silas and departed, being recommended by the brethren unto the grace of God. So they both went out, and all the brethren there recommended them by the grace of God. Go, this is a good thing. Go ahead and go back to the churches that you started in Turkey and Cyprus. And he went through Syria and Cilicia. This is talking about Paul. He went through Syria and Cilicia. So he went up that way, the land route. And the other guys, they sailed to the island of Cyprus and went through the island of Cyprus. And he went through Syria and Cilicia, confirming the churches. All right, chapter 16. Then came he, talking about Paul and Silas, then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timotheus, or Timothy. So here's where Paul first meets Timothy, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek. So this Jewish woman was married to a Gentile. He was a Greek. And so he wouldn't have been circumcised. Okay, this is important for the next few verses here. Which was well reported of by the brethren. This Timothy was well reported of as a real true Christian, which he was. That were at Lystra and Iconium, which is in central Turkey. Verse 3, him would Paul have to go forth with him. So Paul wanted Timothy to come with him, and took and circumcised him. Why did he circumcise Timothy? Interesting, huh? Because of the Jews, okay? The Jews were still the Jewish Christians even, were so still it was so ingrained in them that you couldn't be a true Christian. You couldn't truly be a follower of God unless, especially if you were a Gentile, unless you got circumcised. So Paul circumcised Timothy because he was doing everything possible to gain the Jewish people's confidence so that he could minister to them the true word of the Lord. So when he was with the Jews, he tried to be like the Jews. It didn't mean that he thought it was necessary to be circumcised to be saved. He didn't do it for that reason. He did it to just stop the disputing. Now, how they would know or not know whether Timothy was circumcised or not, I'm not sure. But he did it anyways. That's what it says. Because everybody knew that Timothy's father was a Greek, he says. But he was well reported of by the people, by the brethren in Lystra and Iconium. Him would Paul have to go forth with him, and took and circumcised him because of the Jews which were in those quarters, for they knew all that his father was a Greek. All the Jews in that area knew Timothy. He was a popular person, obviously, and everybody knew that his father was a Greek, so they assumed that he probably wasn't circumcised. And so for Paul, a Jew, to take him with, it would have caused some controversy between the Jewish people that didn't understand that the new covenant was here now. Okay? I know it gets a little confusing, but I believe that makes sense why he did it. Okay. Which was well reported of by the brethren and were at Lystra at Iconium. I'm reading over these verses too many times. For they knew that all his father was a Greek. Verse 4. And as they went through the cities, they delivered them the decrees for to keep that were ordained of the apostles and elders which were at Jerusalem. So they had that epistle with them, and they're going from church to church, delivering that epistle to the churches, showing what the church in Jerusalem, the apostles and elders there, had decided what was going to be the faith. Okay? Verse 5, and so were the churches established in the faith and increased in number daily. So they had their first doctrine. This is the doctrine that the church in Jerusalem, the elders and apostles are agreeing. This is how it's going to be for the Gentiles to come in to the church. And so they established it as that for that time. Okay? But it's still, like I said, it's a transitionary period that they're going through here. Coming from the old covenant, going into the new covenant. And it takes some time. I'm sure it took years for everybody to understand it. Well, obviously, some people don't understand it even today. We have Seventh-day Adventists still thinking you can't eat meat that is pork. And they still think you need to celebrate the Sabbath today. So, some people still don't get it. I think for many years they did get it, and then some people started going back to the old covenant, like the Seventh-day Adventists, through whatever. However they did that. Anyways, verse 5, and so were the churches established in the faith and increased in number daily. Verse 6, now when they had gone throughout Pergia and the region of Galatia, which is a little further, I believe a little further north and west in Turkey, and were forbidden of the Holy Ghost to preach the word in Asia. Now, they're in Asia Minor, so I'm thinking maybe they were forbidden to go more to the northeast. I'm thinking. I'm not sure where that. I didn't get a chance to look at that. What they were forbidden to preach the word in Asia. So what they're doing right now is they're going pretty much through the middle of Turkey from southeast to northwest. That's pretty much their route. And they're going to end up on the northwest side of Turkey. And then they're going to go across the Aegean Sea into Greece. Into Greece. And so you're going to see that. Anyways, after they were come to Mysia, which is, I believe that's on the northwest side of Turkey, they essayed to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit suffered them not. So as you can see there, they're being led by the Spirit the whole time. Where should we go? But God, look at how God brought them right across the middle of Turkey. So if you're going across the middle of Turkey preaching the gospel, is not the gospel going to get spread to everywhere else? Because people are traveling across the country. They're going to hear about this. So look at how God saves time and just goes right through the middle of Turkey from southeast to northwest. Right through the middle of Turkey. I just think that's amazing. It makes the most of your time. Really. It's really a wise way to go about preaching when you only have so much time, right? And it's going to make the gospel spread all the more quickly. That's the way I see it. After they were come to Mysia, they essayed to go to Bithynia, but the Spirit suffered them not. And they, passing by Mysia, came down to Troas. Now that's down right on the west coast of Turkey. And in a vision appeared to Paul in the night, there stood a man of Macedonia. That's across the Aegean Sea in Greece now, further west. and prayed him, saying, "Come over into Macedonia and help us." So Paul has this vision in the middle of the night, and he assumes that this is the Lord leading them there. Verse 10, and after he had seen the vision, immediately we endeavored to go into Macedonia, assuredly gathering that the Lord had called us for to preach the gospel unto them. Verse 11, therefore loosing from Troas, that means they're getting in a ship, we came with a straight course to Samothracia, and the next day to Neapolis, and from thence to Philippi, which is the chief city of that part of Macedonia, and a colony. And we were in that city abiding certain days. So now they're starting to preach around Greece, going much further than they did on their first missionary journey. They've never been to these places before. Verse 13, and on the Sabbath we went out of the city by a riverside where prayer was wont to be made, and we sat down and spake unto the women which resorted thither. And a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple of the city of Thyatira, which worshipped God, heard us, whose heart the Lord opened, that she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul. And when she was baptized, and her household, she besought us, saying, if ye have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained us. So now he's abiding there with Lydia and they are in the city of Philippi, outside the city of Philippi. So where the letter of Philippians was written to, and this is in Greece. All right. So the first convert there, this woman. And she begged him to stay with her, said, if you find me faithful to the Lord, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained us. And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel, possessed with a spirit of divination, met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying, or telling the future, I believe. So she's got a demon by which she's telling the future, and her masters, she's a slave girl, her masters are earning a lot of money, okay? And she's following Paul every day as they go out to this place of prayer by the river. The same followed Paul and us and cried, saying, these men are the servants of the Most High God, which show unto us the way of salvation. Was that the truth? That was the truth. So why would this bother Paul? I was thinking about this morning. Why would it bother Paul if this lady, even though she's doing it by a demon, is speaking the truth about Paul every day? She's crying out every day after Paul. These men are the servants of the Most High God, which show unto us the way of salvation. Why would that bother Paul? Because everybody knew she was doing that by a demon. This is what I'm guessing. Everybody knew she was doing these soothsaying or telling the future by not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but a different God. And so they didn't want people to start listening to this woman, is what I'm guessing. Because even though she's telling the truth, see, false prophets and false teachers, everything they say is not false. They say a lot of true things. The devil says a lot of true things, does he not? That's what makes it deceptive. See, when somebody is speaking a lot of truth and you start following them because they're speaking truth, that's when they can deceive you with the lies. See, even rat poisoning, it's 99% good food. It's just that 1% that kills the rat or kills the mouse. So, just because some people say some things that are true doesn't mean you should listen to them and be a disciple of theirs. And that's what this woman was doing. She was saying some things that were true. And some people there would have said, oh, yeah, she's speaking the truth. What else does she have to say that I can listen to? And Paul didn't want that to happen. That's what I'm guessing was why he stopped her. So anyways, and this did she many days. So many days she's saying this. These men are the servants of the Most High God, and show unto us the way of salvation. She might have started gathering a following, right? I don't know. That's just one idea of why it bothered Paul. Anyways, it did for some reason. And this did she many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the Spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And he came out of her. And he came out the same hour. So he cast that demon out. But see, by that demon, she was able to tell the future to a certain degree to people, and they would come to her for soothsaying, and they would pay her money, and she would tell them their fortune, like Reader Palmer, who knows what. And her masters were earning a lot of money by her doing that. But when Paul cast the demon out, she couldn't do it anymore. And her masters knew she couldn't do it anymore. So their business all of a sudden plummeted. They weren't making money no more off of her. And so they were upset because they were losing all that money they were making. Okay? And verse 19. And when her masters saw that the hope of their gains was gone, they weren't going to earn no more money off her because she didn't have that demon in her being able to tell at least somewhat of what the future was to people. So what did they do? And they know who cast that spirit out of her. They knew that it was Paul and Silas. And so what did they do? They come and they catch Paul and Silas. That means they grabbed them. And they drugged them. It says, and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers. So these owners are dragging Paul and Silas into the rulers. They want recompense. Paul and Silas ruined our business. They cast this spirit out of this woman. She can't make us money no more. We want recompense for this. They ruined our business. So they dragged them into the marketplace unto the rulers. That's where the rulers sat, obviously. 20, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, these men being Jews do exceedingly trouble our city. Well, not really the whole city, just their business, really. But they're exaggerating, right? Do exceedingly trouble our city, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. So they're trying to twist it. You know, Paul and Silas were preaching Jesus as king, right? And so they're trying to twist the words, trying to say to the magistrates, these people are telling us not to serve, Rome anymore, not to serve our emperor anymore. That's not what Paul and Silas were doing by any means. So you see how the devil works? Tries to twist the truth, tries to bring slanderous accusations against Paul and Silas. They weren't doing that. They weren't telling people not to pay their taxes. They weren't. So anyways, but that's what they said. And the multitude rose up together against them. So it doesn't take much to start a riot, huh? These guys are telling us not to serve our emperor. They're telling us not to obey the Roman government. They're going to get us all in trouble with the Roman government. So everybody got upset. Oh, I ain't getting in trouble. Okay, we got to get rid of these guys before they cause some of us to, disobey the Roman laws, and we're going to get crucified. So you can see how it was a very touchy subject, right? And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. So they're beating Paul and Silas now. They don't know they're Roman citizens. They didn't even take the time to ask. They just thought they were Jews from a far land. They couldn't possibly be Roman citizens. So they didn't give them a fair trial. And now they're going to be in trouble. If Paul and Silas wanted to, they could get them in big trouble because Paul and Silas, or at least Paul, was a Roman citizen. You got some serious rights when you're a Roman citizen, okay? You have a right to a fair trial. Well, they didn't give them a fair trial. They just ripped their clothes off and started beating them, whipping them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, that's what happens when you get whipped. A Roman flagrant, you're ripping their skin off. They got little lead balls in it. It's ripping you open on your back. Yeah, it's a serious problem when you get whipped by a Roman whip. But that's what they did. They laid many stripes on them. Yeah, it leaves stripes of ripped tissue. That's exactly what they did to Jesus, too. And you have some serious wounds to deal with. And you could die from those wounds if they get infected. So, anyways, and when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. So this was a extra charge of don't you dare let these guys go, because if you do, it means your life. So it wasn't your normal imprisonment. That's what he means by keep them safely. Don't just keep them safely, because if they get away, you're dead, man. You're going to get crucified. That's basically what he was charging the magistrates were charging the jailer with. These guys get away, you're going to get crucified. So, 24, who having received such a charge, he thrust them into the inner prison. So there's an inner prison, not just the general prison, but they were like in solitary confinement, like a jail within a jail. Thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast in the stocks. So he even locked them into metal shackles. Okay, this isn't the normal prison treatment. These are people you want to make sure don't get away, right? All right, well, it looks like we're going to have to stop there for today, unfortunately. But come back tomorrow and listen to what happens. Do Paul and Silas stay in the prison overnight? Well, you have to come back tomorrow to find out. God, I think, might have some different plans. So God bless you guys. Keep fighting the good fight of faith. That's the only thing that we are justified by. And until tomorrow, we will continue in the book of Acts. God willing, God bless you until tomorrow. Bye-bye.